Welcome. Great new day to all my self care family and friends. Welcome back to another episode of the Room to Breathe podcast, the space where we untangle life's chaos, dig deep, and give ourselves permission to exhale. I am your host, Life Coach 614, and I am so thrilled to have each and every one of you here with us today. Whether you are listening from the comfort of your home, on your commute, or while out taking your morning walk, just know that I'm grateful that you've carved this time out for yourself. Now, before we dive into today's episode, just a quick reminder if you're enjoying the show, don't forget to tap the screen, like, comment, and share. Your support helps us to connect with more amazing people like you. And if we're not friends already, be sure to give us a follow, subscribe to our channel so that way you never miss out on our latest content. I also invite you to visit our website at theselfcareclub.org. We've got some awesome affirmative apparel, motivational merch, and a bunch of free resources designed just for you. It's all about empowering yourself and embracing your journey. No matter what challenges you're facing, remember that you are not alone on this path. We are in this together, supporting and uplifting each other every step of the way. It is time for us to choose to prioritize our well being, to embrace our growth, and to find peace in the present moment. So let's get ready to breathe, reflect, and grow together. Let me see some green hearts in the chat if you are ready. God's purpose. Good morning. How are you feeling today? You've been listening to the music like crazy. Listen, that's what it's here for. I'm glad that you are enjoying it. Hopefully, you're able to stick around and enjoy this podcast. We have a great topic going on today. So, I welcome you to hang out with us because Room to Breathe is more than just music. For those of you who don't know, Room to Breathe actually started with a blog and then it grew to a podcast and it has now also evolved to music. So it is basically all things self care. I love to explore, new options to have life coaching for people. And music just happens to be the newest, form that I share. Hey Shan, welcome in, sis. How are you today? What up, D? Welcome in. Thank you guys so much for being here. So listen, y'all gonna laugh at this topic today, but I'm serious when I say this, okay? Our topic of discussion today is healing is ghetto. What up, Trey's mom? Listen, healing is ghetto. Because nobody talks about the loneliness that comes with growth, right? And so today we're going to talk about something that I feel like we rarely discuss. When people get on their self love, peace, and growth train, right? Nobody talks about the loneliness that you experience. And so I'm just gonna be fully transparent, y'all. The healing is ghetto. It's supposed to be this beautiful journey, right? Where, people always make it sound like it's some smooth road to enlightenment. And, they make it appear like healing is full of light, self love, and alignment. But what they don't tell you is that the growth often comes with feelings of abandonment, isolation, right? Toxic connections. Um, Most importantly, the loneliness, right? Stalking Jesus, the loneliness that healing brings. So, the moment you begin to change, you start to notice how many things in your life were built on unhealthy habits, toxic connections, watered down versions of yourself, right? Welcome in, Kale. And so, with these watered down versions of ourselves, it was all in the name of fitting in. So, picture this. One day, You wake up and it hits you. Damn, it's just me here, right? There's no noise, no distractions, no more numbing behaviors to fill a void. It's just you, your thoughts, and the uncomfortable silence. People start to fall off. The invitations slow down, right? The phone calls stop. Folks who swore, right? The people who swore they loved you suddenly don't even know how to show up now that you refuse to shrink yourself for them anymore, right? You probably don't even like the same things that you used to like. You begin craving more peace, more depth, more alignment. And when that shift happens, some people just can't come along for the ride. Welcome in, Lady Blue. Thank you for the gift, Shan. I'll be real with you. I remember when I first started setting boundaries. Whew, I'll tell y'all, people were dropping off left and right. Folks who used to text me every day suddenly vanished in thin air. And at first, I took it personally. I thought to myself, what did I do wrong? Right? What happened? But the truth is, I was the same person they once knew. I wasn't the friend who would absorb their drama or co sign their toxic behavior just to avoid confrontation. I wasn't the one to entertain negativity or tolerate disrespect anymore. And the moment I stopped playing those roles, people, the roles that people had grown accustomed to, well, they had two options: to either adjust to this new version of me or simply leave me be, right? Exit stage left. And y'all, most of them exited. I ain't even gonna lie to you. Most of them got off at the first exit. And so, when we think of healing, and the reason why I say healing is ghetto is because there's a grieving process that nobody talks about when it comes to healing, right? That loneliness. And that's where things become tricky. This is where self-doubt starts to creep in. You might find yourself asking, did I make the right choice? Maybe I was being too harsh. Maybe I should have just kept the peace. Hey Janelle, Creme de la Creme, welcome in. Maybe I should have just kept the peace. Maybe I should have just stayed the same. Maybe I shouldn't have changed, right? And the trick with growth is that it'll have you second guessing yourself before you've even fully embraced your new self. And the thing that nobody tells you is the loneliness that you're feeling and your healing era is not a bad thing. I'm going to say that again. The loneliness that you feel in your healing era is not a bad thing. It is so necessary. Thank you, Janelle. It's 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 so needed. Okay, it's where you'll be forced to face things, right? All the things that you've been avoiding, all your unhealed wounds. See, once you get lonely, you have no choice but to address them. Divine 79, welcome in. This is in the loneliness, this is the part where you get to address patterns that have kept you stuck. The lies that you once believed about yourself. See, it's in the solitude that you realize healing is not just about feeling good. It's about feeling everything. The pain, the grief, the shame, the regrets. They will all rise to the surface when there's no external noise to drown them out. So let's talk about grief for a moment because it's something that you don't hear people talk about enough when they're discussing healing. Grief doesn't just come from losing a loved one, right? It comes from relationships that no longer serve you. It comes from letting go of a version of yourself who you tolerated less than, or a version of yourself who tolerated less than you deserve. You're grieving comfortable old habits, even the toxic ones, right? And that's because they were familiar. You got comfortable in them. And the thing is, familiarity, even the unhealthy, feels a whole lot safer than stepping out into the unknown, right? We're afraid to step out into the unknown. So we've got to begin to learn to sit with discomfort. We've got to normalize getting a little uncomfortable, y'all. I remember one particular night when I was just sitting alone, and all of a sudden I noticed there were no notifications coming in. There were no plans on the horizon. Like I didn't have any invitations to sort through. I had absolutely no distraction. It was just me alone with my silence. And that's when it hit me. This is what healing really looks like. No cute Instagram posts, no perfect self care routines. No, like that silence was the real deal. The stillness, the discomfort, the moment when you realize you have to sit with yourself and not rely on anyone else to validate your existence. Loving my four, welcome in. And let me tell y'all something. It is not easy. It was scary as hell because when all you have is you, what do? Where do you go? You you sit with it, right? You allow it to teach you. You use this time to realign, to rediscover, and to reconnect with yourself. You start pouring into things that genuinely excite you, the things that make you feel alive. You start to develop new routines, healthier habits, and build more meaningful relationships. You learn to enjoy your own company. Trey's mom said yes. Right? You've got to begin to enjoy your own company. See, that solitude is no longer a punishment, it is preparation, it is growth. And y'all, not even gonna lie, there were moments when I almost turned back, y'all. I almost convinced myself that I was being too much, that this new me was extra. Maybe I should have let certain things slide. My boundaries are too high, right? Maybe I should have reached out to those old friends that weren't good for me. Because they're always here, even though they didn't mean anything good for me. Maybe I should just reach out to them and, just so I don't have to be by myself, just so I don't have to feel alone. And there were times where I nearly caved in. I almost caved in, y'all. I almost tried to squeeze myself back into that little space that no longer fit me. But I had to remind myself that if I have to shrink myself to fit in, that space was never meant for me. Stalking Jesus said, "This is This is why I'm so close to the Lord because He is all I have at the end of the day. Amen. Amen. And so when you sit in this uncomfortable space, right, and you start to find yourself, all of a sudden there's a shift that takes place in this loneliness. And that shift goes from loneliness to liberation, right? One day, something clicks. The loneliness, the grief, the discomfort, all of a sudden starts to feel like freedom. The silence becomes sacred to you. You realize that the space that you've created for yourself is starting to fill up with new people, new opportunities, people who match your energy, people who align with your growth. And then suddenly, the loneliness doesn't feel so lonely anymore. I'm alone, but I'm not lonely. Now you start to recognize this is the beginning. See, before we had the mentality that something was ending, that we were losing something, that we were missing out on something. But as you sit there, you start to realize that this is the beginning of something new. Right, Wanda? This is where it starts. This is where it begins. Think about it. Think about it this way. When you detox your body, there is a period of discomfort, right, y'all? You feel weak, a little sluggish, a little drained. You might be a little irritable. Your body is releasing toxins. And the process of releasing those toxins isn't pleasant. But after it's over, what happens, y'all? You feel lighter, clearer, healthier, happier. Healing is the same way. That loneliness, the grief, the discomfort, that is all part of your personal detox. It's the process of making room for more things, right? Making room for things, for people and experiences that are actually meant for you, that are good for you. So if you are in the middle of your healing era and you feel like you've been dropped in the middle of nowhere without a map, I want you to listen closely. The loneliness you're experiencing is not a punishment. It is a sacred clearing, a space being carved out for things, people, and energy that truly belongs in your life. In those moments of loneliness, I want you to try this. First, I want you to reconnect with yourself. Use this time to journal, to meditate, and to rediscover who you are. I want you to go on solo dates. I want y'all to spend time by yourself and find peace in your own company. For once, I want you to learn to love yourself by yourself. See, a lot of us have learned to love ourselves with the help of other people. I want you to learn to love yourself by yourself. I want you to get comfortable being by yourself. So that way, when you're alone, you're not so lonely. Second, I want you to begin to pour into your passions. That means it is time for you to revisit that hobby that you've been neglecting. It means it's time for you to take those classes that you've been putting off. It's time for you to explore a new interest that is bringing you joy. Papa Smurf, welcome in. Pour into your passions. Number three, I want you to begin to find like minded people. It is time for you to seek out spaces where people are also healing, growing, and evolving. You don't have to go through this alone. Number four, I want you to give yourself grace. Because y'all, healing is messy. Some days you feel strong, other days you feel like you sliding back, spinning the block, right? Both are normal. So be gentle with yourself. Show yourself some grace. And last, number five, trust the process. The right people and experiences will come into your life when you are fully aligned with your true self. So trust the process. And as we continue to dive deeper into this healing journey, let's get into something I know all too well, right? Alvi, welcome in. Let me go ahead and talk about those long nights when you're alone with your thoughts, grappling with your fears, right? It's in those moments when you realize that healing ain't cute. Yeah, number five is the hard part, but you know what? KO, remind yourself it's not impossible because I'm possible. So you can do it. And that goes into where we are right now, what I'm saying. Those lonely nights when you're alone with your thoughts, you're grappling with your fears, self-doubt is creeping in, right? In those moments where you start to realize that healing ain't for the weak, that this ain't cute, right? It's not the polished process that IG and social media makes it out to be. It's gritty, it's raw. It's not just looking cute in your self-care routines or lighting a candle. Healing means that sometimes we got to face the darkness that's within us. And again, the truth is healing gets messy. You cannot heal what you cannot feel, which means if you continue to ignore the things that have hurt you, if you're not willing to go back and heal these old wounds and this trauma, you're not getting anywhere. There are no filters, there are no edited versions. In this process, you are forced to confront parts of yourself that you'd really rather ignore. The wounds that you've buried deep down, the traumas that you've never processed, the insecurities that you've spent years trying to outrun. It's hard. And no one warns you that it's going to hurt before it gets better. But that pain, that hurt is necessary. It is part of the detox because healing isn't just about light, it's also about dark. It's about sitting with the uncomfortable truths and allowing yourselves to feel everything that you've avoided. That's where the real transformation happens. When you stop running, when you finally sit in that space and allow yourself to be raw, unpolished, and real. So yeah, it's gritty, but the grittiness is where you find your strength. And yeah, we all know that change is uncomfortable. We know this intellectually, but it's a whole different feeling when you're actually in it, right? And I think the reason why people avoid change is because it shakes you to your core. It takes away the comfort of the familiar, even when familiarity no longer serves you, right? It requires that you step into a new identity, one that is not defined by who you used to be or what you used to tolerate. Growth is a transformation, and we know that a transformation is not always pretty. Look at a butterfly. That caterpillar goes through a whole lot before it turns into a beautiful butterfly. And that's what healing is about, the transformation. That caterpillar don't get stuck like, oh God, this is an ugly phase. I'm never going to do it. I just give up. Nope, you got to trust the process. And, when I think about discomfort of change, I remember a specific period in my life where I was moving into a new space and I felt like everything I had ever known was crumbling. My friendships, my job, most importantly, the way that I was viewing myself had shifted. There was a point where I couldn't even recognize the person I had been. And while I was stepping into something new, I also felt like I was losing everything that made me feel safe. And I learned that, you know, that's the thing about healing. You don't just gain, you lose too. You lose friends that can't handle the real you. You lose old habits that comforted you but no longer align with who you're becoming. You lose the easy way out, the distractions that kept you from facing the hard stuff. It's like being stripped down to the bare bones with no illusions left to hide behind. And honestly, it's just hard to feel grounded in that space when the ground is shifting beneath you. But let's be clear here, the loneliness during that healing isn't just about being physically alone, it's about facing the emotional void that emerges when you realize you're no longer the person you used to be. And for good reason, right? The people around you might not understand the changes that you're going through. And that's when you start to feel most isolated. It's the space where you have to rebuild your own identity, one that no longer resides on other people to confirm what you've already known. Hey V, right? A space where external validation is no longer needed. I remember so many nights I found myself thinking, what the hell has happened to my life? I had spent so much time trying to be a people pleaser, trying to fit into places and spaces that honestly didn't resonate with me. And as I grew, I started to see those connections were only superficial. I had built relationships around expectations, obligations, and the fear of being alone. But once I confronted those fears, I was left standing in the middle of a void, alone with myself. And that void, that emptiness, yeah, it felt overwhelming. It's like taking a walk through life in a fog, right? Unsure who's going to show up next, what's waiting for you at the end of the road. That's the tricky part of healing, right? That's what makes it ghetto. Nobody talks about it. Healing isn't about feeling that space with distractions. It's about learning how to sit with it, to feel it, to trust that this space, although uncomfortable right now, is where the magic happens. There is a power in solitude. And you don't realize it until you've been forced to confront it. Because in the beginning, you know, it's easy for us to mistake that loneliness for weakness, right? We're we're taught or groomed, I should say, to think that we constantly need to be surrounded by people in order to feel loved and validated, right? More people. The more people that you have in your life, the more friends that you have, the more popular that you are, then the more value you hold as an individual, right? We're told that our worth is tied to the people who surround us, the people who choose to stay. But here's the thing that nobody tells you. When you learn to embrace solitude, you learn how to how to be whole on your own. Okay? You stop needing other people to complete you. You stop seeking external validation and you start finding the worth within. When I first started embracing my solitude, yeah, I was terrified. I was so used to being around people, filling my life with noise. So I had no idea what to do with myself when I was finally alone. It felt like a punishment, like I was being abandoned. And for those of us who have, this childhood trauma, abandonment, that's scary. To feel unloved, unwanted, undesired. Anyone who's ever been cheated on, right? You felt that feeling of not being good enough, right? And so, you feel abandoned. And you know over time I had to realize that that was not a punishment for me. It was actually the greatest gift that I could have given myself. It was in those moments of stillness that I started to hear my own voice, a voice that had been suppressed for years. I was able to begin to reconnect with my desires, my passions, and my dreams without the distraction of others. The more time I spent in solitude, the more I discovered about me. I started to like my own company, right? And, I started to fall in love with myself all over again. I found hobbies that brought me joy. I reconnected with my creativity in a way that I never had before. Those of you who know me know I started painting again. I started writing again. Through my journaling, I started creating that music, right? So I was able to reconnect with my creativity in a way that I never had before. Couldn't have even imagined, right? And it wasn't about running away from the pain and the discomfort. It was about learning to sit in it, to breathe through it, and to allow it to transform me. And slowly but surely, I began to realize that I wasn't alone in my journey. I was just learning to become my own best friend. And I know that one of the hardest parts of healing is recognizing that sometimes you have to lose in order to gain. Those losses feel painful, they sting, they hurt more than you could ever anticipate. Because when you start healing, you're not just healing from external wounds, you're also healing internally, right? You're healing from the way you allowed yourself to be treated. When I look back at these toxic relationships and these toxic friendships that I shed, the internal hurt I felt hurt more than their actions or lack thereof, right? It wasn't just losing a friend, it was the fact that I allowed myself to be used by that friend. I had to begin to heal from the way that I allowed myself to be abused, neglected, mistreated, mishandled, right? The way I allowed toxic people and habits and environments to shape me, to change me. When you start setting boundaries, when you choose to walk away from relationships that no longer serve you, you're not just saying goodbye to those people. You're also saying goodbye to the version of you that tolerated their behavior. And that's a huge shift. You're letting go of old patterns, old ways of thinking, and the old version of yourself that no longer serves your highest good. And let me tell you, the grieving, yeah, the grieving that comes with healing can feel like you're losing pieces of yourself. You'll grieve the version of yourself who didn't know better. You'll grieve the friendships that once felt so secure, and you notice that they now feel like chains. You'll grieve the comfort of old habits, even if they were toxic. But what you're really grieving is the illusion, right? The illusion of the illusion of the safety that those things provided. And once you begin to let go of that illusion, you're going to make space for the real healing to take place. There's a blessing that comes with making a clean break, right? This is where the beauty starts to emerge. Once you've gone through the loneliness, once you've sat with your discomfort long enough, you'll experience a clean break from the old version of yourself. You start to recognize your strengths. You start to realize that the people who walked away weren't meant for the version of you that is growing, that is evolving. You'll start to realize that the people who stayed, those were the ones meant to walk beside you in this journey. But you've got to understand that this healing process requires patience. You have to trust that every loss you experience is a step towards the life that's waiting for you. You have to trust that every single moment of loneliness is preparing you for something greater. And when you look back, you'll realize that you didn't lose anything. You just made room for the life that you were meant to have all along. There's a beautiful moment in healing where you start to redefine your circle. The people who are meant for you will show up in the most unexpected ways, y'all. You'll find people who align with your values, your growth, and your journey. These are people who will walk with you through discomfort. They'll walk with you through loneliness. And they will help you to celebrate your victories along the way. And when it comes to your identity, you're going to start to redefine who you are. You're going to stop allowing the past to dictate your present and, most importantly, your future. You're going to stop allowing other people's expectations to shape your reality. When you trust the process of healing, you start to become your own person, a strong, independent, fully aligned person, right? And that's where the real magic happens. So again, trust the process. And that's honestly the key to healing, right? To getting through this ghetto healing journey is trusting the process. Trusting that even in the moments when it feels like everything is falling apart, knowing that it's actually coming together. Healing isn't linear and it isn't easy. There are going to be days when you feel like you've taken 10 steps backwards. That's okay because healing isn't about perfection, it is about progress. The people who are meant to walk with you will find you, you'll find them, right? The things that are meant for you will align when the time is right. And until then, just trust the process. Trust that every moment of loneliness is just a part of the journey. Trust that it's making room for something greater in your life. When you truly step into your power, the right people won't just show up, they're going to recognize you. They'll meet you where you're at, and together you'll build something real. But for now, just sit in the discomfort. Breathe through the loneliness. Trust that this sacred space is preparing you for everything you've ever prayed for and more. And remember, you're never really alone. You're just making room. You're shedding the old to welcome the new. And that's where the true healing begins. As we wrap up today's episode, I want to say thank you for joining us. If you've enjoyed our time together and we're not friends already, be sure to give us a follow. Subscribe to our channel so that way you never miss out on our latest content. And don't forget to head over to our website at theselfcareclub.org. We have some awesome affirmative apparel and motivational merch, as well as a treasure trove of free resources designed just for you. Whether you are looking to elevate your self care game or you just want to find a little extra inspiration to help you get through the day, know that we've got you covered. Thank you. I thank each and every one of you for being a part of the Self Care Club community, and I am excited to connect with you all again soon. But until next time, I encourage you to keep breathing, stay positive, and remember that you will always be supported here at the Self Care Club. Don't be afraid to take up space and make a little room for you to breathe. I pray that you all have an amazing day on purpose, filled with nothing but purpose. And I look forward to reconnecting with you soon. Thank you.